We all care about our planet, and we know how precious and fragile the environment is. But we are not honest about the damaging impacts of the mining industry. Mining destroys our environment, wiping out ecosystems and polluting our air, soil, and water. In exchange for the profits they make from mining companies are supposed to fix this damage. But this almost never happens properly. We need to start asking why. The law in South Africa requires mining companies, before they start mining, to prepare a detailed specialist study setting out the damage that the mining will cause and how they will fix it. This fixing is called rehabilitation, and it can be very expensive. Mining companies must also show how much it will cost to rehabilitate the damage they cause. They must then set aside money to cover that cost, and they must report on this in their financial statements as a provision. The idea is that by the time the mining is finished, there is plenty of money available to fix everything up properly. Sounds good, right? But this system has failed in South Africa. Instead, our beautiful landscape is littered with thousands of abandoned and unrehabilitated mines. These sites are dangerous, continue to cause pollution, and cannot be used for anything at all. Fixing the damage becomes the responsibility of the state and ultimately the taxpayer. That's us. The Center for Environmental Rights, an environmental legal NGO based in South Africa, looked into how mining companies are calculating the costs of rehabilitation and how they are telling their shareholders about it. We studied the information in the financial reports of 11 listed coal and platinum mining companies. We wanted to see whether the information about the costs of rehabilitation is understandable and useful. What we found is that the information companies provide about rehabilitation is very limited and doesn't tell you much about what is happening in reality. The details, like the actual calculations done in the specialist studies, are not publicly available. So instead of being able to unpack the information for ourselves, we have to take the company's word for it. It is impossible to compare companies against each other, and also difficult to understand the reasons why the numbers change from year to year. There is only one number given for the cost of rehabilitation, no matter how many mining operations a company has. And so, we cannot tell how much money has been allocated to fix up each site. It is also unclear whether the calculations and estimates are thoroughly checked by the mining company's auditors using independent experts. To try and get to the bottom of all this, we wrote to the companies explaining how unclear everything is and asking them to clarify a number of issues. Some of the companies' responses were helpful and detailed, others vague and confusing. A few companies didn't respond at all. Looked at altogether, it is extremely difficult to figure out how much damage a mining company is causing and whether it can afford to fix it. We can't rely on the government to make sure that this system is working properly, and we don't have enough information to be able to verify and challenge the figures that the companies are providing. There are a number of simple changes that could really improve the system, so that the information provided is understandable and useful. For example, mining companies should break down the amount of money they have set aside for rehabilitation so that you can see how much is allocated to each of their operations. They should also make their calculations publicly available, and they should give explanations for why the figures go up or down from year to year. We have set out all our recommendations in our online report, which you can see here. This problem is not unique to South Africa. The research could be repeated elsewhere by assessing companies' disclosures on rehabilitation, identifying the gaps and problems, and calling for a new approach to reporting on this critical environmental issue. For too long, mining companies have not been made to pay for the damage they cause. If we don't change the system, taxpayers and our planet will continue to foot the bill.